This podcast of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, is sponsored by AAA Heating and Air.
The premier HVAC company in the Midlands is growing. Are you a top HVAC technician?
AAA Heating and Air is looking for dedicated applicants to fill their fast-growing service department with top-notch HVAC technicians.
If you're the best, then they want you. If you're ready to stop working and start a career, you can earn up to $100,000 plus a year at AAA Heating and Air.
Quality candidates will have at least 2 years experience and a good driving record. Benefits include top industry salaries, commission on service and unit sales, set call limits, company-provided take-home vehicle and gas card, company-provided cell phone and tablet, health, dental, and vision benefits, 401k retirement plan with company match, and scaled PTO based on length of service.
Contact Roy and Dana Finley at 803-677-1500 or check out their job postings on Facebook or ZipRecruiter.
AAA Air when you need us. AAA Heating and Air.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen with Chris Clark.
The 2007 South Carolina class was, at that time, 6th in the country and 4th in the SEC, which is amazing.
Wes Mitchell.
You know, I think if you're South Carolina, you're aiming to at least be at 50%. Then in theory, you're adding talent, you're getting better, you're putting yourself in a position to compete.
And Tyler Head.
It's been a great week for South Carolina. On the recruiting front, still certainly plenty to talk about.
On the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
And welcome into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs here on 107.5 The Game. Tyler, Wes, and Chris along with you on this Wednesday morning. Looks like Wes has already fallen asleep in the Herndon Chevrolet studio, so we're not off to a hot start here.
There you go. You changed the music there in the background. Did you mean to do that, or was that another happy accident like the Mac Brown remix?
You know what? I'm just going to claim everything. I totally meant to do that now.
Can we go back and capture the Mac Brown remix and play it to start the show? At some point?
I'll
Please
go back and find that and see if we can clip that. I see Wes is excitedly touting his Phil Steele preview magazine.
I have the book The Experts Cannot Do Without.
There we go. Say that again.
I have the
There
book
you go.
The Experts Cannot Do Without.
Yes.
That thing is thick.
It's always thick.
350 plus pages. Glossy, thick. I'm gonna start sounding dated. There's not much like a good magazine. I used to wear out some magazines back in the day. Tyler, even there used to be a WWF magazine.
Yes, there did. Yep.
Did you
I
partake in this?
I had a few issues. Now, I think that's completely gone now, too.
I don't. Wes, is it still around? I don't think WWF.
I don't know.
It's probably gone to the streaming platform.
It would be WWE. If
It'd be WWF one now. You've been reading about wildlife and things like that.
If you have an old WWF magazine, it might be worth something.
I'm actually surprised, Tyler, you don't have some in a plastic wrapper somewhere.
Well, that's kind of the funny thing about magazines. I don't think we ever saw them becoming obsolete. So I don't think we thought to preserve them as we were buying them. Like, oh, these are going to be around forever. And now you have the opportunity. In fact, the Phil Steele magazine, you have the opportunity to download it from the Phil Steele website and just have it on your laptop. But I wanted something that could feel and turn the pages of.
Yeah. I'm always a hard copy guy. Something like that. I want the actual media guide, I have to use the online media guide a lot in a pinch, but the actual Phil Steele magazine. Wes Tyler, it'll be me and you today because Wes is just going to read his magazine during the show.
I can see that.
What have you found out? Good info?
Anything you've learned so far?
So, oh man, these are great, but you also have to remember you've got every single team in here, so you mess out on some of the granular details. That I don't want to call Phil Steele out. You're not going to call Phil out, but there are a couple things in here that are just not quite accurate. But go ahead, Tyler.
I would say the funniest thing about that magazine is the page where he lists every single notable person that follows him on Twitter. We already know that you're the college football guru. I don't think you have to flex on us yearly with this page of every single other expert that follows
That's
you.
called social proof, Tyler.
I guess so.
Yeah.
It is hilarious.
Phil wants to make sure that his magazine does not turn into the WWF in the past. magazine.
Chris has been taking marketing classes on the side. He just named what that is. It's social proof.
I purchased a course for $97 from an influencer through a YouTube ad and found that out.
Just so you could drop that word on an episode of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour.
Yes, that's right.
I think he read that in a newsletter that he subscribed to on Twitter.
Or no, it's one of those like word of the day calendars where you have to challenge yourself to use it at some point in the day.
Don't make fun of me because I'm trying to better myself.
In all seriousness, y'all, this is not a paid ad, but go get you a Phil Steele. There's something about just getting this thing that tells you A, it's football season or that it's almost here. And to be honest, as much coverage as we have on teams, and there is more coverage than you've ever seen before online that you can find, it's actually somewhat difficult to find a big picture preview. Like if you want to know about the latest on hopefully anything with South Carolina, you can go to Gamecock Central. You can go to another website. I don't encourage that, but you can, and read about what the latest happening is. But if you're not following, for example, North Carolina, and you go to a North Carolina site, you're going to read about what the latest is, but you need a way to get a big picture look at what to expect. And so that's why I think the old magazine is actually still the perfect place for that, even with everything that's on the internet.
Wes, what have you learned anything from Phil's preview of South Carolina?
He is very high on Pete Lembo's special teams, as is everyone.
Shocker.
He actually said, I don't know what goes into his rankings for this, but he said that they are his number one special teams in the country. Okay. So probably not a surprise. He's taking a leap of faith on a couple of things here. He's actually got Nicholas Harbert already penciled into a starting position at wide receiver. I think Amarian Brown, Eddie Lewis may have something to say about that. But, yeah, it's interesting. I haven't gotten to, like, completely dive into the full thing. But this guy packs more information into a paragraph than anybody on the planet.
It's interesting to go back and look. So I remember when Phil was on with Jay and Terry, I believe it was, last year on the halftime show. And you probably remember this, guys. He was high on South Carolina's offense making a leap in year 2. Now, part of that was because, obviously, the year 1 bar, the first the Shane Beamer era in 2021, the offense statistically and eye test, left a lot to be desired. And so naturally you're going to be able to make a leap. But I think Phil projected, I'll try to go back and find it here. I think he projected South Carolina to take something like a 9-point a game jump up into, I think he had South Carolina averaging like 30 to 31 points a game. And that was one reason he was high on South Carolina to make a leap last year. They actually ended up making him look pretty good on that. You go back and look, South Carolina finished the 2022 campaign tied for 39th in the country with Baylor, 32.2 points a game. Now, of course, the last 2 regular season games really helped that total, particularly put up a 63 burger on Tennessee. That's going to, drive that total up. But that was one area where Phil had predicted with his model, hey, I like, with the inclusion of Spencer Rattler, the offense in year 2 under Shane Beamer taking a leap forward. They ended up doing that. It was probably more inconsistent than he thought, but his model, at least statistically, ended up, being pretty close to that. I think they actually probably surpassed it a little bit, largely because of those last 2 games.
Guys, I think something kind of big picture before we get into, media day tomorrow and start to kind of turn the page to this season and more specifics and stuff like that is there's kind of a weird dynamic with this team right now where you look at some of the high-profile guys that are returning, and you look at huge announcement when Spencer Rattler announced his return, huge that Juice Wells announced his return, but then you sort of have to, I guess, put that in context with the fact that Beamer tends to keep mentioning, hey, guys, we're going to play freshmen at every single position. And you look at this, South Carolina, according to Phil Steele, only 10 starters are back from last year's team. I think the official number that South Carolina, I'm trying to find it in the media guide while we talk, but I can't do two things at once. I think South Carolina maybe lists that number as even lower, or it's no, they're the same. So 10 returning starters, but that includes 2 specialists in Jeter and Kroger. So you're really only looking at officially 4 returning starters on offense, 4 on defense. And that actually includes Jalen Nichols, who will
not be starting.
Yeah, will not be starting. Now I do think you can maybe add in a couple of guys. Like that includes let's see. I shouldn't be doing this live on the air. No, there has to. Juice Wells is a returning starter.
Yep.
He is not listed on this for some reason. So anyway, point being, returning starters, you have some high-profile guys, but you're going to have to fill out a huge part of your starting lineup, and then in turn, you're too deep with guys who either didn't play a ton or at the very least did not start. So I think Beamer has been very quick to point out, hey guys, this is not a ready-made team that is coming back. He's almost kind of dialed back expectations. And so Phil still has what he calls an experience chart. South Carolina, number 82 in the country in the experience chart. So, I think Phil Steele is always really good at kind of giving you some of that context on, hey, how does this compare to the rest of the teams in the country in terms of certain things? And he's got a lot of different, stats that are kind of unique to him. That sort of drove home the point for me. Like, yeah, there are some high-profile guys that are back, but they've got to fill in a lot of sort of gaps on this roster this season.
Absolutely, and of course, we're going to hear from Shane Beamer and company coming up tomorrow for the final day of Media Day. In fact, he'll be taking the podium right around 11:30 probably, and we'll still have full coverage of that for you right here on 107.5 The Game. Speaking of Media Days, we will go out to Jay Phillips coming up next and hear from what has occurred already in Day 3. As we know, Nick Saban was at the podium in the last hour. We'll hear from Jay coming up next here on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs on 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. 107.5 The Game.
Chris Clark, I am pumped. We are going to be live from Firehouse Subs in Casey on Friday.
Yep.
Which means we're gonna have all the subs of the day on one day. But today's sub of the day is just one, but you can get one for every single day of the week. It is Wednesday, last I checked. Today is my number one on my power rankings right now. Chris introduced me to it. I've been stuck on it ever since. It is the New York Steamer. I had never had pastrami before. Now I was Googling how I can make pastrami at my house, but there's a Firehouse Subs right near me, so I don't have to take the literally 7-day process to make it myself. I can just hit the rapid rescue on FirehouseSubs.com, or even easier on the app. Put what you want. For me, I just take it the way they do it normally. I don't add anything. I don't subtract anything. It's perfect as it is. $7.99 medium sub. Plug it in. Get some Harvest Cheddar chips, and then it's waiting for me on the little thing right when I walk in. Chris, I want everyone to come join us on Friday and have some subs with us.
We'll be out there 9 to noon. You can get the New York Steamer. That won't be the sub of the day, but you can still get it. It's still outstanding. Or you can try the new pepperoni pizza meatball sub. That'll still be
with
around.
Garlic butter.
With garlic
added.
butter. It is absolutely outstanding. So come see us in 9 to noon. Firehouse Subs, Casey will be there.
All right, we'll hear from Jay out at Media Days coming up next.
For a limited time, Sweet Deals is offering qualified listeners the vacation of a lifetime. An all-inclusive 5-day, 4-night stay in a suite for just 2 adults and up to 2 children in Cancun, Mexico for just $299. This opportunity is valued at more than $2,600. That's right, a $2,600 vacation for $299, and it's all-inclusive, meaning all your food and drinks are included. Attendance is required at a presentation for Vacation Club ownership, but who cares? There's no purchase necessary. And you have a 30-day money-back guarantee if you change your mind. Do not miss this exclusive luxury vacation offer from SweetDeals.com. $299 for 4 nights at an all-inclusive resort in beautiful Cancun, Mexico. Go to SweetDeals.com right now and snag this once-in-a-lifetime offer. That's SweetDeals.com.
7-5 the game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head. On your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
And welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler, West, and Chris here in the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. We head out to our man on the street out at Media Days, though. Jay Phillips, as Nick Saban was at the podium about an hour ago. I haven't got a chance to listen to any of it because I've been here in the studio, though I do see Ross Dellinger of the Action Network tweeted out that he said his favorite cake was carrot cake. So we're already starting off with controversy this morning, it seems like, with Coach Saban.
Yeah, that was an interesting choice. I'm fine with carrot cake. It's kind of just like spice cake with some carrots in it, but it's fine. I will say real quick though, about our friends at Firehouse, way to go with the New York steamer call there, y'all, because that's my wife's favorite and has been for years. And I had not had one either until like maybe 2 years ago. We have one like Wes does. We have one right near our house, only about a third of a mile away from our house, actually, maybe, right around that walking distance. And I was like, can I just have a bite of that? And basically I was ready to eat the whole daggum thing. Those things are I love Firehouse, but that New York steamer. So good call, boys. Tyler, on Nick Saban, first off, the funniest thing I think that happened, and he didn't really mean it to be, but I thought it was great, and I tweeted it out. He did take his wife to Italy this summer, unlike Coach Smart, who said, my wife wanted to go to Italy, but instead we went to Mississippi. And I just thought that was so funny the other day. But, Bama's interesting. There's a lot of chatter around here. I mean, I heard some guys a couple of tables down from us this morning, Alabama's kind of in a slide. And I suppose in one sense you can make that case. They didn't play for the SEC championship. They do lose a lot of quality players, but they always lose quality players because all they have is quality players. They are bringing in new coordinators, although, as Nick pointed out, Kevin Steele's done it several times. And I think Reese can be a guy. Look, we saw him with Notre Dame. Look, they got talent. And I have a hunch that Nick Saban and Alabama will figure it out. Whether they win the West, I don't know, but I think they'll be pretty darn good.
Yes, Bama has slid to the depths by going 11-2 last year and 13-2 the year before. That was after going undefeated in 2020.
It's funny, Chris. And last year again they lost 2 games by a combined 4 points, both on the road. Mm-hmm. One on a last-second field goal, one on a 2-point conversion in overtime. Mm-hmm. I mean, and they lost in Knoxville and Baton Rouge. It's and oh my God, the sky is falling. But I get it; they didn't win, and so did you win or did you lose? And I get it, but I just think there's almost I don't know if there's like a tacit like hope that Alabama is fading, but I would be really careful around this conference in thinking, oh, we don't have to worry about Bama anymore.
Jay, obviously, and I think Alabama's graded on a curb a little bit because the expectations are so high there, obviously. But I think my concern for them going into this year is you're going to have to replace a quarterback who was obviously dynamic, number 1 overall pick, and it doesn't yet appear that the next guy has kind of emerged. This is a Saban program that they've won sort of with a dynamic guy, like a dynamic offense. It's not the same as it was 5-7 years ago when they were winning with defense. So what if anything, did Saban say about the quarterback battle today?
A good bit. No, like specifics in terms of the guys that are battling for it, and they had to go into the portal to try to find some guys to create, I think, a better level of competition. What he said, Wes, was we're not in a rush to do this. He did a Lou Holtz. They're both from West Virginia. He said when he was a little kid, Grandma Saban made the best cakes, and that Nick, would sit by the oven and wait for it to come out and want it to hurry up and get done. And, she told him it wasn't done. So he said, we're going to treat that like a cake, and we're going to get these guys to battle it out. So he said they weren't close to naming a starter and that they weren't going to rush. I suppose, Wes, you can interpret that a lot of ways. If you want to be more cynical, then you could say they have no idea because none of these dudes are good enough. If you want to be more optimistic, especially if you're a Bama fan, these guys are equal, and Nick and Tommy will look for ways to separate them come practice time. Somewhere in the middle might be the more realistic. I don't know. But when you're measured, as y'all know, when you're measured directly against a Heisman winner and the top pick in the draft, it's difficult until you go out and do it as a player. So, and their schedule, I got to tell y'all, their schedule's interesting. They've got Texas early. They go to South Florida, which I don't expect them to lose, but that's, good for them. Mississippi, Lane has given them some problems. They go to Starkville. They go to College Station. Then they've got an interesting home stretch of Arkansas, Tennessee, and LSU. There's a bye week between Tennessee and LSU. They go to Kentucky, and they go to Auburn. I expect them to be favored in most, if not all, of those games, but it's just if they don't get it figured out, I don't know. So am I contradicting myself? Y'all tell me. I'm sitting here saying don't count Alabama out just yet, and yet I look at that schedule, relative to Georgia's schedule. And again, the schedule is the schedule. You, the school, can't help what the status of the teams on your schedule is. You control you, period. But it will be just a fascinating watch, I think, to see what Nick Saban does with all that change to keep the one constant that Chris just pointed out, and that is 11, 12, 13 win seasons.
Well, it is interesting because, there have been many years in the past where you go over Bama's schedule, and frankly, it doesn't matter who's on it. You just go, okay, they're favored in every game. They're probably going to win every game. And, a lot of times that plays out or close to it. Even last year, a quote down year. You pointed it out, Jay. You lose 2 games to 2 really good teams, both on the road. But, you look at this year, it's a little bit more of a question mark. You see a few where you say, because of the team they're playing, maybe where the game is, and because of Bama's question marks, notably, probably most notably at quarterback, it is a little bit more of a question mark. It's a different situation than, say, Georgia, who's now coming off back-to-back national titles. You look over Georgia's schedule, you go, okay, they're favored in every game. It's hard to find a loss here. If you look at, I agree, some of the interesting games, that early game against Texas is fascinating. I even point to the Auburn game because, Auburn's not going to be as good as Alabama this year. They're not going to be as talented, but it's on the road, and guess who Auburn's coach is? It is noted Saban and Alabama antagonist Hugh Freeze, who gave them a lot of problems when he was at Ole Miss. So kind of fascinating.
And if Auburn's offense by then is clicking in the sense that the kids all understand what it is that Hugh wants out of something that moves as quickly as that does, then that's why I say it's interesting. I wonder too, y'all, in terms of what Nick Saban wants to do from a coaching perspective. I have always been an admirer of his, especially in the last decade when he went from, the classic 4 yards in a cloud of dust and strong defense to wanting to score 45 and 50 points a game. Where does that fall this year if he doesn't feel like the offense is good enough? And he mentioned Tommy Rees coming in, and he said he's going to take our offense and add to it. Well, they ran the ball a lot at Notre Dame. And Brian Kelly was, the system they came out of, I realized Brian wasn't there last year, but, how adaptable will Nick be this year in terms of what the talent level looks like? Because, again, there's only one expectation for that school, and that's why I say that. You can't have a rebuilding year. You just I'm not, if you do, you do, but that's not what people are, this year it'll be okay. No, you didn't win the West last year. You better win the West. You better win the conference. You better win a national title. That's what fans expect.
Well, one element of that talent that was a big question last year was obviously wide receiver, and you do return your top 2 receivers in Burton and Brooks, but both those guys didn't do anything too notable last year compared to what Alabama's been used to over the past handful of years. You bring in a Malik Benson from Hutchinson Community College as a 5-star transfer. Commitment, hoping to shore things up a little bit more at wide receiver. But when you have questions at, quarterback and you haven't added that much at the wide receiver position, you just kind of wonder what kind of a leap that offense can make, this year compared to last.
I agree. And will it be a leap, Tyler? I don't know. Like I say, maybe, and when I say this, I don't mean like they're going to not win as many games, but do you dial it back? Again, like I said, do you adapt to the talent? Does Nick want to go back to running the football more and the way Tommy Rees and Notre Dame were able to run? There are those elements, and control the game a little bit more from that perspective. Make sure that run game is strong so that a defense, has to respect it, and then allow a quarterback and new receivers to find their way open, because of what a defense is doing to you. So, I kind of feel like they may need to go in that direction. We'll see. But again, it's an interesting schedule, so, and like, we all know, man, there's one expectation at the University of Alabama when it comes to football, and that's win the national title.
Absolutely. And we'll go ahead and let you go, Jay. Anybody lined up for the halftime show today?
We have the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference. Very excited about that. Towards the end of the program, around 2:40, Greg Sankey. We are hoping to get Ryan McGee. He and Marty are doing the rotation early this morning, but we hope to get Ryan before that. And again, the fluidity of this thing means we could grab somebody on the fly. Sam Pittman will be speaking, and we'll play back some comments from Nick and Sam. And then later today, it will be Mark Stoops and who's the other coach today? Oh, Billy Napier. Billy Napier. So Florida and Kentucky, couple of Gamecock opponents later on this afternoon. So we'll have some more coverage of that. But should be a good one, and I always look forward to talking with the commissioners. That's going to be fun. That'll be around, like I said, around 2:40 today, I believe.
Okay, awesome. Well, we'll let you go and hear from you again at the top of the hour.
All right, guys.
All right, that was Jay Phillips out at SEC Media Days. We'll talk more Media Days coming up next. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. 107.5 The Game.
Hey, anybody out there that is a parent like me, you know that you would do absolutely anything for your children, and that is why it is so important to protect them and the rest of your family with life insurance. From State Farm agent Amy Mason-Cupp, our good friend, will help make it easy and affordable to protect your family no matter what your future may hold. Amy Mason-Cupp is a South Carolina native and a local agent from State Farm. Her office, as a matter of fact, right down the road. 612 St. Andrews Road, Suite 4. That's Ashland Park Plaza, and that is right off of the I-26 St. Andrews exit. Go pay her a visit. She and her team can help give you a personalized quote to meet your needs and help you save, whether it is on life insurance or any other insurance product that can be for your business. It can be automobile. It can be home. Any insurance product, she can help give you a personalized quote to switch and save. And when it comes to life insurance, make sure that you are properly protecting your family. Her website is amymasoncupp.com. That's AMYMASINCUPP.com. Phone number is 803-772-5554. Again, give her a call, 803-772-5554. Let her and her team give you a personalized quote on life insurance to make sure that you're protecting your family. Great coverage at a great price. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is.
Mix a little sports analysis, pop culture, and great interviews, and you've got the Rich Eisen Show podcast.
Whenever I drive separately with Susie, you always have to go first. So sure enough, I pull into the garage. She's not even here yet, which allows me now the opportunity to stand there, just holding the door open, like the gentleman that I am. And I snapped a photograph of Susie's reaction, and there it is. How did you get here?
The Rich Eisen Show podcast, wherever you listen.
There.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head. On your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
I'm not an expert on revenue sharing. I do know that our Classic City Collective has been on the cutting edge of sharing information, trying to get best practices, trying to find a better way. I've been, a big proponent of, like, why can't, just like we talk across different programs to figure out the best way to run a defense or do an offensive play or study, like, let's figure out the best practices of this so that we can get some uniformity among them and try to grow it that way. But that may not answer your question because I'm not an expert on revenue sharing or the way it would be set up.
And that was Coach Kirby Smart yesterday talking to the media, not an expert on revenue sharing, but giving his 2 cents there. And you knew with everything going on with NIL, especially when it comes to the state laws and with what the NCAA announced as their rules a couple weeks ago, this was something that was going to come up quite a bit over the course of media days. And again, that's just kind of Kirby sharing his thoughts there. Welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler, West, and Chris along with you. It is day 3 of SEC Media Days and plenty more sound to get to. But any thoughts on what we heard from Kirby there?
Well, it's a fascinating situation right now. I know Greg Sankey had some thoughts on NIL too earlier this week when he opened things up there, his lengthy monologue. And NIL was, of course, an area he hit on, and he pointed out that, hey, a lot of these states are adjusting their NIL laws to basically be in direct conflict with what the NCAA has laid out. Well, a lot of state legislatures are being pushed by those affiliated with SEC member programs to change those state laws so that they aren't so restrictive. So you've got that angle. You've got the angle that the NCAA is pleading their case to Congress to do something on the NIL front. You have pushback and opinions from a variety of different entities, right? You have the conferences, of which the SEC, the Big Ten are going to be the loudest, most important voices, rightfully so. You have Congress. You have the NCAA, and then you have coaches, administrators, and you have the players. And so there's a bit of a power struggle going on right now. And I tend to think at some point we probably get to some type of revenue sharing model. It just seems like the dam has burst, and eventually we'll get there. I don't know what it looks like. And even as someone who's a big proponent of NIL and athletes being able to take advantage of it, I also recognize, hey, there are some problems here that need to be solved. It's really hard to figure out how to solve them. It's harder to figure out how to solve them with all these different cooks in the kitchen. I mean, yeah, that's kind of where it ends. I mean, I don't have the answers. I don't think anybody has the answers.
So you're telling us you're not an expert either?
No, not by any means. I mean, I think we get to revenue sharing collectives today. A lot of people have said the past, I think NIL collectives, which basically they look different, in different places, fan memberships, et cetera. Sometimes it's mega boosters like John Ruiz in Miami pooling money together, basically soloing money for recruiting purposes. They look a lot different. Some people say, well, can they go away? Will they be made illegal? The problem is, in a lot of instances, they're a private business. How do you make a private business go away? You can't really do that. So this is one reason why the NCAA is throwing its hands up, and they're just going to Congress saying, hey, come save us. And it shouldn't be a surprise that has not worked so far. And it's probably unlikely to work on a federal level.
Well, Kirby may not be an expert, but everybody involved in college football is probably more of an expert than Congress is the problem. There are so many intricacies to this. How is you can't just pick up a pamphlet and then know the details. Oh, we're going to put together some reform that's going to fix all this.
And that's why it's crazy that the NCAA is leaning on Congress to make those things happen, like they don't have a million other things they're already worrying about.
Well, and they're just, even Tommy Tuberville, who actually has a college football background, and I highly enjoy all the jokes that come out on Twitter when people say, college football expert, and people are like, not really, not Tommy Tuberville. But even him, when he goes up and talks about NIL, he seems quite misinformed.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, if this guy actually worked in college football, what about the others? Like, and I'm not turning this into a political thing.
Sure.
Okay. I don't know. But Rand Paul getting up talking the other day about college basketball players and saying that we're going to turn them into rappers because they're driving they're all driving Lamborghinis and Ferraris or whatever he said. It's like, is Rand Paul really going around checking the parking lot before the basketball game to see if he's allowed to enjoy a college basketball game or not. It's really gotten silly.
Are you telling me they might be out of touch with reality a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit.
There's a lot that needs to be said about those comments. I don't know if we're going to touch them or not.
I don't think we should.
I don't think we should.
But here's the thing. I think rev share is definitely on the table. What it looks like, we'll see. I do think certainly, like, I am all in favor of the players being able to participate in earning some of what they generate. And, I do think there has to be a balance to it, though, as well. Because, I think we have to remember as well, yes, these athletic departments generate a ton of money. And yes, an insane amount of it goes back to the football coaching staffs. That's worth acknowledging. At the same time, there is an insane amount of money that goes back directly to the areas of the athletic department that the players are involved with every single day. The ops building, the beautiful facilities, indoor facility, outdoor facility, academic learning center, food nutrition department, strength and conditioning department. I mean, add on and on and on and on. All these different things that student athletes are directly benefiting from. So if all the money, we're just going to give all that money to the players. Well, how do you have an operation?
Yeah.
So there has to, I think, be a give and take. When we were saying, they're getting their education paid for, they should just be happy for that. I don't agree with that thought process. If you have a market, we want there to be a free market. A lot of people want there to be a free market and everything else, but then when it comes to student athletes, we're like, they can't have an expensive car. If they're a big enough brand as a student athlete or as an athlete or as a human being that they can generate that, then by all means, go for it. If somebody can be on TikTok doing cake recipes and buy a Mercedes, then by all means, so can the quarterback. But I do think when you start talking about revenue share and the amount of money generated by athletic departments, we do also have to acknowledge that a lot of that money is being pumped right back into the athletic department to where those same student athletes are then able to benefit and then build their brands on that as well. So like anything, there has to be some balance here.
Well, and the money also, the NCAA makes gobs of money. Gobs of it. And what is driving that revenue? Well, yeah, Coach Nick Saban helps make Kirby Smart helps make the NCAA money, right? And they're paid very well also.
Sure.
But these athletes, they're the ones out there playing. And to Wes's point about scholarships, yeah, football's a head count sport. Everybody gets a full scholarship, but baseball doesn't. If you get a decent piece of scholarship, you're doing extremely well.
Right.
There are even guys that are full scholarship players in football. They're different backgrounds. They're different situations. A lot of these guys are 20, 21, 22 years old. And we're saying, you're not like every other person in the world. You can't do this or that specific thing to make money. So I know, Wes, agree, disagree with this. It doesn't seem like Gamecock fans are a huge fan of the NCAA, right? Like generally the consensus in Gamecock country.
You can take out South Carolina fans. You can just say
everybody.
Fans.
Everybody.
Okay, but let's go local. South Carolina fans, do you love the NCAA? Do you think it's a great organization? No. In fact, you felt at times screwed over by the NCAA, right? So ask yourself, if you are saying, I don't want players to be able to get any money, are you good with all of it going to the NCAA and to the administration? Are you good with the NCAA building their coffers up and having kind of a monopoly on the money? If you are, okay. I'm not.
Yeah, but also not to ever defend the NCAA. It also is somewhat lost that the NCAA isn't, for the most part, taking that. I think they basically make like $1 billion a year, if you want a big round number, literally.
Probably more than that, but
it's generally around $1 billion, give or take. they aren't just throwing that into the stock market and spending it themselves and sitting there watching it build up. That money is then distributed back to the member schools.
Yeah.
So a good portion of it is.
But Mark Emmert made how much money?
Too much.
He did, but compared to $1 billion,
yeah, I get it.
It's a small percentage of it. Like, yeah, should the president of the NCAA be making, like, lining his pockets with generational wealth? Probably not. But in a general sense, the NCAA is the schools that make up the NCAA in some ways. And so, I mean, this is an old article, but basically in 2021, the NCAA distributed $613 million to its member institutions. So,
also a lot of members.
Yes. So, I mean, I think a lot of times we do, the NCAA, are we talking about the NCAA as a whole? Are we talking about the administration of the NCAA? I think a lot of times we dislike the administration of the NCAA.
That's kind of what I go
the
to.
direction of it. But it is important to note that of a lot of that money that is earned, it is given back to the member institutions.
For sure. And I'm sure there's going to be more coaches that are going to get asked about this as the week goes along. Got to hit a break. Coming up next, we'll wrap up today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. 107.5 The Game.
If you were listening earlier, you heard Jay Phillips talk about a couple of our sponsors. Talked about Firehouse Subs, New York Steamer. But he also talked about integrated media. Michael, Nathan, our friends, they do an outstanding job with smart home systems in your home. What is a smart home system, you may be asking? Well, I can tell you. Utilizing your smartphone, you can control everything, just about everything in your home. Lighting, thermostats, sound systems, televisions, security cameras, and alarm systems. You may be looking at that saying, well, I don't really need an entire smart home system. Maybe I just need a security system. Maybe I just need to figure out, okay, what are the best types of security cameras? What's the best monitoring? Hey, maybe I need a TV mounted. Maybe I need my internet signal boosted or something else.
Maybe you need some lighting to where when you walk in the house, it automatically turns on for you and starts playing Sandstorm.
They can do that, actually. I mean, I'm not even joking. If you want that, they could set it up for you. Your home systems are at your fingertips. Impress your guests, Wes, by not only having your preset lighting things. Maybe you could come. I don't know if they can do this. We'll have to ask Michael and Nathan, give them a call and ask them. Maybe entrance music separate for any person that walks in. Like you might have to press a button when Wes walks into my house, Sandstorm, and a particular lighting theme. We'll check with them on that. IntegratedMediaInc.com. If you go to Facebook or Instagram, Integrated Media Columbia, you can check out some examples and some inspiration photos of their past work, and then give them a call, 803-948-8327. Everything from mounting a TV to a complete smart home system. Michael, Nathan, and the team at Integrated Media could do it for you. IntegratedMediaInc.com, 803-948-8327.
We'll wrap up the day. Coming up next, Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs, 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
And welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler, Wes, and Chris along with you for a few more minutes before we hand things off to Jay and Taylor for the halftime show. Jay, of course, out at SEC Media Day number 3. And we had hit the break there, but Chris, I believe you had more you wanted to talk about with the revenue sharing conversation we had there at the end of the last segment.
Yeah, I'm going to change it up, actually, Tyler. I know. I do this to Tyler all the time. Like, I told him something when you were out, Wes, and he was like, I am the producer. You might want to loop me into these things. So Wes asked me a trivia question.
Okay.
Off air, and I got it. He told me I had no shot.
Okay.
2006. This is like a testing Tyler thing.
All right.
We also came up with the name for our segment.
We're going to do this more frequently now, Wes.
We're going to do it like once a week, maybe.
All right.
So we'll loop this into testing Tyler. But 2006, the only early enrollee for South Carolina, that recruiting class, and Wes was like, can you guess it? You have no shot. And I actually got it. It was Clark Gaston.
Wow.
Who ended up transferring, I think, from USC, but he was the only early enrollee now. Now, tons of guys early enroll. All right, testing Tyler.
Oh, boy.
Wes, you come up with a wrestling one. I have the NASCAR one.
So now we're coming up with this on the fly?
It's on the fly. You just look up any random...
We only have a couple minutes here, guys.
We got a couple minutes. 2017.
Okay.
Let's go.
This is literally on the fly.
Let's go with Darlington.
Okay, all right, sure, Darlington.
2017 Darlington, the Bojangles Southern 500. Who was the winner?
The winner of the race was Denny Hamlin.
That is correct.
What the? We're gonna have.
Why are you guys surprised by this?
Because you got it like that.
At some point, you'll have to get stumped on one. We're gonna
make them harder and harder. I'm gonna have a wrestling one for you tomorrow because we don't have time for this.
You guys keep trying, but so far so good.
Yeah, wrestling tomorrow. But Tyler is 100% so far on testing Tyler. We're gonna get a little cut too we'll have the cool voice say testing Tyler or something like that.
I was about to try to do one, but I
decided against it.
We got to throw things back out to Media Days. That'll do it for today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Up next, halftime show with Jay and Terry on 107.5 The Game.